Welcome everyone to today's episode of Craftcast. As usual, I'm with
James
and Sean.
How are we, guys?
Pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
We're recording this in the middle of the June heat wave, so it's a little bit warm here in Freemasons Hall. Thankfully, this room has some decent air conditioning, and I'm sat here in just a waistcoat and a shirt and trousers, no tie, no jacket. So we do have a lodge meeting this evening that all three of us are at.
Exciting stuff.
And Stephen, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
What have you been up to since we last met?
Well, we had a charity event at my fencing club up at university, and it was quite a fun event. We had this tournament just between our own club, where people could donate money to sponsor you to fence, and the more money you collected for your donations, the more fun tokens you got, a bit like handicaps in golf. So we had all these things like adding weights to your feet, and so you couldn't move as quickly, and a couple, double points for this hit, and you can't go backwards, and made it exciting. We raised £2,400 between, I think it was 16 of us, 17
Amazing.
of us, something like that.
Wow.
I was representing a combination of TLC, Teddies for Love and Care, Gibraltar, and the Staffordshire MCF 2024 Festival. And so I collected from both. The money that came from Gibraltar went to Gibraltar, and the money that came from Staffordshire went to Staffordshire. And I took home £900 for my charities, which was
well done.
lovely.
Yeah, because your dad, shout out Stephen Watley Sr., he's involved with Teddies for Love and Care in Gibraltar, isn't he?
Yeah, he was a founder, trustee back in 2006 with two other brethren. One unfortunately passed away, and the other still going strong with him as well. Welshwood brother Tim Turner, shout out to Welshwood brother Tim. And so he's been doing that. My dad has delivered the Teddies for 18 years now, maybe.
Wow.
Something like that.
Almost as long as you've been alive.
And James, what have you been up to? Travelling, no doubt. Michael Palin over here.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of travelling. We had our Provincial Grand Lodge and Provincial Grand Chapter annual meeting last Saturday, and we do both on the same day in Warwickshire. So we have the Provincial Grand Chapter Royal Arch in the morning. Yep. We have a combined lunch, and then we do Provincial Grand Lodge in the afternoon. So it's sort of, 8 till 5, 8 till 6 sort of time frame.
Indissoluble link,
absolutely.
One organisation, one journey.
Beautiful. And of course, we have the same head of both orders as well.
Sure.
The double header, which helps. I was a little bit tired, though, because we had a rehearsal the night before on the Friday evening, and I had literally landed in Heathrow from New York about 4 hours before the rehearsal.
and of course, as deputy DC, you got quite a bit to do, I imagine.
I had no choice. I had to be there. Now, I actually love Provincial Grand Lodge, and for anyone listening that's a Master Mason, if you ever get the chance to go to one, you really should, because it's a really special day. The way that Provincial Grand Lodge is opened is different to how a
just
normal
something a
lodge.
bit special, bit extra.
Yeah, I really enjoy it, and it's nice as well to see people getting their appointments and their promotions, and to celebrate that.
It's all very
with everybody.
wholesome, I think.
I love it.
Whereabouts is that held in Warwickshire? Is that at King's Heath?
No, it's King's Heath is in Worcestershire.
Sorry,
actually.
No, you're right, but I know you guys use the building.
We do use that building for our installed Masters Lodge, but we've actually we've moved around over the last few years. We were at the CBS Arena, formerly known as the Rico Arena, last year.
Nice.
Where Coventry City and Wasps used to play.
Yes.
And this year we were at the National Motorcycle Museum in Birmingham, which was a really nice venue, actually. The room was a stunning room, and it really set the scene.
Did you have to ask anyone to leave, or say on your bike?
Oh, ever the joker. I do need to come back to Worshipful Brother Watley over here, though, because for those listening, we have a little group chat that we are in, and I was scrolling through my phone one evening and saw that Mr. Watley over here had won a very special prize at university. Have you not?
Oh, yeah, I forgot about
Mr.
that.
Sports Personality.
Yeah.
You're basically like sort of 2012 Mo Farah. That's how I see you now.
With much more hair.
Yes, and probably the inability to run as far. But
definitely the inability to run as far.
Tell us about it. What was it? What happened?
Yeah, it was. I was quite surprised, to be honest. I was nominated and then shortlisted for Sportsman of the Year at my university. My club was I'm club captain in my fencing club, and we were also nominated and shortlisted for Most Improved Club and Club of the Year. So yeah, we and a few of the other individuals in my club got nominated for their own thing. So yeah, that was really great, and I was very fortunate. I was selected as the winner, the Sportsman of the Year for Keele University.
And what time did you go to bed that morning?
That's a good question.
You can't remember, can you?
I'm gonna guess 5 o'clock.
That's a guess. So really, 6, 7, maybe 8.
Were you surprised to be named the Keele Sportsman of the Year?
I guess yes, because you never really know what everyone else has achieved, and I'm of course, as any sportsman I think should be, is proud of my achievements and confident in what I've done. But at the end of the day, something like that, it's very hard to choose between people who have done such incredible things throughout the year. So to be selected for that was a real honour, and certainly can't say you ever expect something like that. Back in 2013, I won the Junior Sports Personality of the Year, but in Gibraltar.
Yeah,
and likewise, that was a shock. And little 13-year-old me got up on stage in front of 20,000 people on television and everything. And
you have not aged.
that was like 2 years ago.
And Brother Sean,
yes,
what have you been up to of late?
Yes, been rather busy this weekend. Recently passed, I was lucky enough to be up in Leicester for the Regional Members Pathway event that was taking place at the Freemasons Hall in Leicester, where a number of provinces from sort of the Midlands down towards London way, but there was a good collection of provinces. I think there were sort of 10 to 12 provinces in attendance. The provincial Grand Masters of each of the provinces were in attendance, as well as sort of key members of their membership teams. A number of the communications officers were there, and it was just a great opportunity to talk about the Members Pathway, and perfectly segueing now.
Perfect timing, really.
Not be better segueing.
What a coincidence.
What a coincidence. Who would have thought it?
It's like it was planned.
It was almost as if we think these things before we press play. No, but genuinely, it's perfectly timed, because for this episode of Craftcast, I was lucky. Obviously, you guys couldn't join me for this one, but I was lucky enough to sit down with the Assistant Grandmaster Stephen Varley, with Ian Copestake, who's the Provincial Grandmaster for Derbyshire, and with Chris Hurst, who's the Project Manager for the Members Pathway, to really talk about the Members Pathway, to understand how vitally important it is for not just the delivery of the strategy, but also the future of Freemasonry, which it absolutely is, because essentially what it is, it's a framework for lodges and provinces and even individual members to use to really help them do every part of that sort of attraction process within, bringing people into Freemasonry, planning that journey of that person through Freemasonry, how to engage them, keep these people interested and involved within Freemasonry, and then those, for example, who may have left, or people who are continuing on their journey, retrieve as well, sort of keeping them in and bringing back those who have left us. So it was a fascinating conversation, a brilliant weekend in Leicester that was really useful.
I think in general, not just in Freemasonry, but outside in work and even in university, I think a skill that I've had to learn to acquire, rather than trying to do everything myself. I think often some of the work has already been done, and you can just why repeat the work? And so if something like the Members Pathway can give that support structure, it's all been worked out and done before.
Yeah,
there's no, of course, every lodge will have its traditions and can do it the way that they want to, but there's no obviously no harm in accessing that support network, and so I'm sure our listeners will enjoy finding more out about that.
Well, hopefully, and a big part of the Members Pathway is the sharing of that good practice.
Yeah,
exactly. and a really good thing that came out of us meeting in Leicester, and there was another regional event earlier in the year that was held in Leeds, and that was for your sort of northern provinces. We had the one in Leicester, which is for the Midlands. We've got another one in London, which is in October, and that's a big one actually. I think there's about 20 provinces coming to that one, and then there's another one in Bristol, I think, a bit after that for the sort of southwest. But a really positive thing to come out of that was that opportunity for provinces to sit down together and talk about how they're approaching the members' pathway and how they're dealing with the different challenges that are arising. You know, as we welcome new people into Freemasonry, we try and keep people within Freemasonry, and the members' pathway really does encourage people to use that process to make sure that these people are having a good experience when it comes to joining Freemasonry as they go throughout their time as a Freemason as well. So it was a really fascinating chat. I hope our listeners get something from it, and here it is. So, gentlemen, thank you for joining us. Today we're here to talk about membership. Before we start in detail, I'm curious, just to get some context, how did each of you become Freemasons? Stephen, if we start with you, how did you become a Freemason?
My father was a Freemason and he initiated me. His grandfather, my grandfather, initiated him, so it was a fairly good chance I would become a Freemason.
Yes. Ian, how about you?
I was interested in my 30s to become a Freemason. I was living in the Hope Valley at the time, but I didn't know any Freemasons, so I moved to Buxton, where I did know some Freemasons. I joined there. After visiting Hope Valley Lodge, I realised that I knew a lot of Freemasons in the Hope Valley. Sadly, they didn't make themselves known to me, so I spent 10 years not joining when I could have joined.
Oh dear. Mr. Hurst.
Hello.
How about you?
Well, strangely, it's something I hadn't actually thought about until I was sailing one day, and one of my friends who became my proposer actually said, "You do a lot of charity stuff. Have you thought about Freemasonry?" And then several yacht races later, meeting some Freemasons, I suddenly found myself with a form, and later with a blindfold and wondering, what am I doing?
And you're still wondering that to this very day.
Exactly.
So you talked about your form there. I'm curious to know, is there a really odd place that either of you have had to whip out a Form M or a Form P in order to try and get someone to join Freemasonry? Chris, how about you?
Well, for me, with my mother lodge, we've been very lucky that we've had people who've come from a variety of backgrounds, military, sailing, and we've generally found that if you can cope with a week on a yacht with someone, you can probably spend a lifetime in a Masonic lodge with them.
Yeah.
So we've actually had a couple of forms filled in on tall ships in the middle of big races in the Baltic, which is quite a strange thing.
Wow. Stephen?
Several at Derby Rugby Club in the bar.
Ian?
Sorry, I'm very boring, all done in my house.
No. Well, yeah, efficient. I like it. Now, obviously, today, gentlemen, we're here to talk about the members' pathway. And Chris, I wonder if you could, because I know you've been involved in this project from the very beginning, could you give us an insight into how the members' pathway was first created?
So the Members Pathway came about as a group of work that was being done at UGLE in mid-2015, 2016, looking at how we can improve Freemasonry. And there were several ideas that were coming around at the time. One was how we can improve the quality of work in lodges. Another one was looking at how we address membership.
Yeah.
And they came together with the concept of the Members Pathway. So several people's ideas came together as one. A team of very skilled Masons actually got to meet in person over a series of 2 years and came up with what was the first Members Pathway. Sadly, the way that it was put together didn't meet what everyone thought of was the best way to engage with it. So we looked at how we could improve that, and that's the content that you've got now.
Okay. And I mean, when we had the Programme Master on, he spoke a lot about the membership challenge, which sounds like quite an ominous sounding thing. Ian, could you talk to us a bit about the membership challenge? What actually is it for our listeners?
Right, well, the membership challenge, on the left-hand side, you've got the people coming in to lodges, either by initiation or by joining members. And on the right-hand side, you've got the people who have been leaving our lodges, obviously deaths and resignations and exclusions. And the object of the exercise is that the left-hand column is at least matches or exceeds the right-hand column, which means that we will will be growing and achieving the thriving membership that we all seek to find.
So Ian, obviously the obvious question that then follows on, what's the relationship between the Members Pathway and the Membership Challenge?
Well, the Members Pathway is there to facilitate the operating of a membership initiative which will increase attraction, which will help with engagement and also help with retrieval. And of course that will increase the membership of our provinces and therefore close the Membership Challenge.
Okay. Now, obviously we're on what we hope, I don't want to jinx it, touching wood when I say this, we're on the other side now of a global pandemic, COVID-19, and I think it's important to note that work actually began on the Members Pathway before the pandemic. Now, Stephen, why was this needed?
Quite simply because the original iteration wasn't working. It had been developed and given to provincial Grand Masters to use. I think the common parlance was it was lobbed over the fence, and it died a death. It was promulgated to the provinces, but it wasn't embedded in the lodges, and that's where it died. And we needed to reinvigorate it, look at it again, repackage it. The idea, the concept is brilliant, but the packaging and the support service behind it just didn't work.
So you mentioned the need there, Stephen, for it to get down to that lodge level. Ian, do you have any advice to a lodge that wants to start using the Members Pathway? What would that be?
Yes, first of all, as a lodge, you need to agree that you need to do something about membership within your lodge. Read the Members Pathway. It'll help you. It's quite simple. It takes you through step by step. And don't forget your provincial officers, the provincial membership officer, the provincial mentor and so forth. They are there to help you.
Okay. So I'm going to throw this out to anyone who wants to answer, because it might be up to some different interpretations, shall we say. But who makes the decisions on changes made to the Members Pathway? Who does that sit with?
So one of the things that's unique with the way that we work for the Members Pathway team is across the country we have regional communication groups.
Yep.
Each of those has representatives from the provinces on board, and with the Members Pathway we actually have an RCG rep from each regional communications group who is a lead for that area and feeds into the Members Pathway team, who help us evolve and shape the content and help us guide where we need to improve and what we can do better. They work with someone called a SPOC, and we can thank Neil in North Wales for all these terms. I do apologise, but you need your own glossary for understanding what all this is. So a SPOC is a specific point of contact, and that is the provincial lead for the Members Pathway in that province. And then they manage the PPOs, which is the provincial, and we should put Members Pathway Officer in there, but we've got Provincial Pathway Officer in there. And that is a team of provincial officers, the almoner, the mentor, the learning and development officer, the lodge membership, the membership officer, who all come together and they facilitate delivery at a local level. But they can guide up where we need changes, bring that to advice, and then that comes into the crucible that is the Members Pathway Working Party. We will put recommendations together and then we'll pass them up to the boss.
Stephen Varley.
Thank you.
Now, to clarify, I noticed there that you were very particular in calling it the Members Pathway instead of Pathway. Why is it so important that we do that?
So the Members Pathway is our concept as UGLE. It's a tool, it's a framework that we've put together to use. Lots of other organisations have got their own pathways. Some of these are quite personal in the fact that they can relate to medical treatment, certainly in parts of England. If you go to the north, the pathway is actually a route for cancer treatment.
Right, okay.
And we need to be very careful that when we talk about a Members Pathway, it's about the journey for Freemasonry, and we don't want to trigger any memories that could be difficult for people to think of if we call it pathway. Yep. But also, if we can't speak with one voice and one brand message, we're not going to achieve a lot. So really we need to be on context of it's the Members Pathway and the messages that are under it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We do get quite cross when people call it other things other than the Members Pathway. We've had Membership Pathway and Members Journey and all sorts of weird and wonderfuls, and it's important that we have this brand and that we keep it consistent, as Chris has said.
No, absolutely. Now, staying with you, Stephen, how important is the Members Pathway in delivery of UGLE's new 7-year strategy?
It's hugely important. It's the spearhead of what we're trying to do, and if you start to follow the Members Pathway, then you will find almost certainly that your numbers start to grow and that the strategy becomes very easy to adopt and to use. It is so important, and it's mentioned numerous times within the strategy, and as far as I'm concerned, it's the key element to it.
Brilliant. Now, I'm going to throw this open to all of you, starting with you, Ian. What are your hopes for the future of the Members Pathway?
My hopes are not for the future of the Members Pathway. My hopes are for thriving membership, which, of course, the Members Pathway is a tool and a route by which we can achieve a thriving membership.
Chris?
Very easy. The fact that it's going to be second nature. So rather than the fact we've got to have lots of promotion on the Members Pathway, guiding people to use the tools and resources, that actually it's something that's just intrinsic with how we work in our lodges, and it's a second nature approach. At the moment, sadly, we've got to promote the engage, retrieve and attract and planning hub sections, because not every lodge actually understands the importance of this work in having a happy, harmonious and healthy lodge. And if that's just there and existing by default, it's going to make everyone's lives happier and easier.
Yeah. Stephen?
That it achieves and continues to achieve what we hoped it would do. Simple as that.
Thank you very much. Now we're on to our final question, gents. I'm sure you'll be relieved to hear. Can you each give me a simple action that lodge members can do, and there are probably a few of them listening right now, that lodge members can do to best use the Members Pathway? And Chris, if we start with you.
Don't treat it as someone else's job to do. We talk about having a lodge membership team, and there are key officers in that, but they can have assistants. So if you're listening to this, you're interested in your Freemasonry or possibly joining a lodge and getting involved. But the reality is that everyone can be a stakeholder in shaping the future of their lodge, and this is a great route to do it, and the guidance and support is there.
Stephen?
To be flexible, not to be dogmatic, and to use the Members Pathway to achieve the aims of increasing the membership within your lodge.
Thank you. And Ian?
Talk to members of your lodge. Persuade them as a lodge you need to embrace the Members Pathway. You might find that your lodge may have had much larger numbers many years ago, and you would like to see those numbers come back again. The Members Pathway will be the route by which it'll happen.
Brethren, thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the Members Pathway, brethren, found it really interesting actually listening back to that interview. And the thing that I really took away from that is, having seen the previous Members Pathway, which I think it's safe to say for anybody who saw it was quite a large document of sort of linear pages, to have this very condensed graphical template, easy to consume. It's a template for lodges to use. And the great thing about it is, because it's a circle, it gets you to think about the fact that this is an ongoing process with members. It's not something which starts at contact and finishes.
Stops,
Exactly, finishes with initiation. It's an ever-going, ever-evolving process with these members to keep them engaged and to keep sort of them wanting to come back to the lodge or to their chapter, because that's an integral part of it as well, introducing the Royal Arch and keeping them engaged with Freemasonry. So
there's always something to go on to.
Absolutely,
always,
Royal Arch is obviously separate. That's going to be covered with Archway, but absolutely, I think there's a big part of that retrieval, is leading on to further Masonic experience. Yeah, go on, Stephen.
I personally like the mention of Bugle. I discovered it not that long ago myself and found it really useful, so I definitely recommend it to
the Bugle website.
Yeah, the Bugle website with all sorts of resources on there that are just helpful for anyone, whether you're in whether you've got an office in your lodge, or if you have an office in your province or district, or not at all, and you're just interested in this kind of thing. That something like Bugle allows you to read about it, understand it better, and potentially get involved, put yourself forward for different things and put your ideas forward to your lodge.
So it's b.ugle.org.uk. B, just the letter B, .ugle.org.uk. Where do they come up with these names?
I know. Who came up with that?
Who comes up with marketing with this?
Honestly. No, I hope that was useful to people. I mean, generally, I think there's, especially within comms, I think there's certainly an attraction to focus more on that younger demographic of people coming into Freemasonry. And I think what the Members Pathway reminds us is that actually we aren't just restricted to young people. Actually, I think there's a real target there for us when we look at that sort of older demographic, people that maybe have just retired, have a lot of extra time on their hands. And the Members Pathway really does provide us with that process and that, as you say, James, that template to attract those people, to engage with them, to plan their future, and then to keep them engaged and enjoying their Freemasonry.
Yeah, personally, I think I love my Freemasonry and I would love to spend more time on it, but, you know, little thing called life gets in the way. And obviously, if you're retired, if you're in a different stage in your life where you've got more time on your hands, whenever that may be, then I definitely think Freemasonry is a very productive and enjoyable way to fill that time.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree. It's the great thing about Freemasonry is that it is open to all ages. As long as you're above 18, you can become a Freemason. And we've talked about this in previous episodes, but to go back to what Sean was saying, it's not just about young members, the same as it's not just about older members. It's about bringing in people from all walks of life, all ages and all backgrounds. And I think you get something from that you don't get in any other organisation.
I think there's a misconception as well in general that older brethren in your lodge will discourage younger brethren from joining. And actually, from my experience, people my age really sort of appreciate that that depth of age range in a lodge, that you get to meet people that otherwise you would just never talk to.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I think to sort of round up the conversation, chaps, if you are a lodge or even if you are a province, I would urge you, do go and seek out the Members Pathway. You should have everything that you need. It's been circulated in First Rising, in Freemasonry Today. As I say, your province should have everything that they need. But if you do not, as James said, as Stephen has said, do head to b.ugle.org.uk and you can find all of the resources for the Members Pathway there for your consumption. Right, chaps, are we done?
Think so.
Great to be with you again, guys. See you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye, guys. Craftcast, the Freemasons podcast. The podcast is hosted by Sean Butler, Stephen Watley and James Dalton. The producer is Marta Zandri. And the podcast is edited by Trisonic.